Well, hello there and welcome. It's Monday the 16th of August, 2021 still. It's cloudy outside with the odd sunny spell. I don't know if it's going to be dry today, but that isn't really something that concerns me too much at the moment because I want to add some more colour to this particular artwork. I've been doing it over a number of vlogs. This will be part 4. So I'm about halfway through, I think, or just over halfway through. It's hard for me to judge. A lot more to be done. But I'm really quite happy with how it's appearing. I definitely want to do something here about this grey block. I may turn that all black, and I may do the same in some other areas where there are tiny little bits, because that will stop me from feeling overwhelmed by all of those, as well as adding depth to the drawing. And it may be that I may just go for black here, just to add a really deep black pool, just to give that sense that there's really great depth and layer here, and things perhaps unseen lurking somewhere. But I really am quite happy. I'm glad I decided to use some complementary colours, and I'm really pleased. This one here, I did these yesterday over here, and it's iron green and dark aquamarine. The colours together are absolutely gorgeous. It reminds me of peacock feathers. Peacocks, that lovely iridescent green and blue. Yeah, I know. I could wax lyrical on such things for quite a long time, I think. Okie dokes. So let's get to it. This is felt green, and it's just a nice-ish green, really. I don't know whether I'm going to add another colour to this. I may do this in a slightly different way. I'm just checking this is the only area of them, because if I like to, if I've repeated a motif in a design, then I kind of like to use the same colour scheme on that one, so that, so this will be quite nice as it is, which is great. And then I think, rather than going lighter, where's that iron green? It's around here somewhere. There. I think I'm going to go darker at the ends and have the lighter green at the base and the darker at the tip. I'll see how that works. I must admit, I wasn't impressed with iron green on my swatches. It looks a rather faded grey colour, but here it really shows up beautifully. Perhaps it's because I may have used a lot more of the pigment than I did in the swatches. I don't know. It may be that this paper is very white compared to the other one I used. Okay, let's have a look here. Oh, just broke my rule of go from light colour. Nope. It was felt green, wasn't it? I got spring green. Felt green is there, yeah. And it's light at the base, and the iron green is at the top. There we go. Because the two greens mix, it gives a different feel to the iron green. It makes it much more of a greeny green. Whereas with the aquamarine, the deep aquamarine there, I got this beautiful blue, greeny blue. The hard thing for me is going to be remembering this, perhaps, rediscovering it in some way in the future, but I'll see. I may remember. What I do remember yesterday, as I was adding these blue colours, was that big smile that came in my arty creative heart as I realised what was happening with the colours. Because I didn't check them first to see how they'd work together. I don't think I did. I may have done. Can't remember doing so. I just thought, we'll just go with it, see what happens. And I did, and fortunately it worked out. Of course, the more I learn about colours, the more it'll inform my work digitally as well. Because my problems with colours extend into in the realms of digital artists to some degree, not as much as with traditional media perhaps. But then digitally I tend to use fairly monochrome colour mixes. Having said that, it wasn't the case as I was working last week on adding colour to the coloured plates for whimsical cats. Coloured plates are the 4 actually templates that I add colour to for the front cover, back cover, and 2 photographic plates inside colour plates as examples of the work of the templates coloured, because as fun as the templates are, they're very basic line art, which sounds so wrong when I say it. But they are. I say basic, they're just line art. If you know my line art, it can get really complicated like this. But it's colour that really brings these to life. Right, I'm going to let that all kind of dry there while I deal with this poor, lone, solitary leaf. I must have had plans to do more, but it obviously escaped my mind, or I just couldn't work out how to get them settled in. Now, I love this iron green so much. We're going to use some more of it, but obviously I'm going to have to be careful now that I don't overwhelm everything with this one colour. But I have a plan, I think, here. I do think I have a plan. I think I do. Well, you know me, I have. And I'm bravely going to go with it rather than test it out, because I am sticking with monochrome colours. It's not like I'm going to do anything crazy like add purple to it or anything. That's not in my colour choice anyway. I think I may need to find some time to do some experimenting with colours and perhaps take unusual colour combinations and see how they blend together with water. So this is Hooker's green rather than the felt green, and then I've got spring green here. I did take a few moments before I started this morning to sharpen some of the pencils that become a little bit blunt. I don't sharpen them to a point that's so sharp it could cut light, but enough that I can get into spaces easily. This will work out quite nicely. And of course, if I want the tips of that leaf just a little bit darker to give it the feeling that they are curling under, once these are dried, I'll go back. I'm not going to try and do it now because I'll end up with the colours all one colour, because I'll just find it easier to return once it's dry. But I shall see how it looks, because I am planning to add highlights with a glaze. Yeah, the clear glaze, because I'd love to bring some of that kind of, just want to add a bit more of that green there. That shininess, but the white souffle, which I prefer to the white jelly roll. and others, because it does dry so opaque and it doesn't pick the colour up easily underneath. Not that it's going to here, because once the ink tints have dried, they're permanent. But on water-soluble media, watercolours and the Ecoline watercolour pens and so on, which I haven't used for a while, have I? Oh. It's typical of me. I get all excited about something and then, you know, my mood changes and I discover that I'm dissatisfied with everything I'm doing, and I tend to put something to one side for a while and come back to it. Same with watercolours. I haven't used the watercolour set for a while, but it's there and I know that it's there for when I need it, or when I'm ready to return to it. And of course I'm still dithering. I keep saying, oh, digital colouring's the way to go, and then I do something like this and I think, well, perhaps not, but then perhaps there's just room. I say perhaps. There's room in my artistic style, my voice, for both traditional and digital media and techniques. There's not as much of that iron green on this side, but I actually think that's going to work quite nicely, possibly. But as I've already said, once this is dry I can always go back and add more colour, because it does seem that little bit washed out today. Let's give that a chance just to dry. They are a bit washed out over there, but I'll see what I do. Okie dokes, I'm going to go back to this one, and I think it's just going to be, I'm going to be brave and just put iron green around the whole lot. So once I've done this, my attention has to go to inking in the cover for the next Creative Haven colouring book, which most probably will be released in about a year's time. And it still blows my mind. And then once that's done, it won't be long before I'll start the next one, because we've already agreed sort of on a theme for the next one. Because for me, inspiration really does come from the natural world, I think, more in many ways. But I have a couple of personal projects to do as well, but it's finding the motivation. It's not so much motivation, it's the belief in myself to do it. And the focus and pushing myself. I'm making sure I'm getting plenty of this down. I don't know why it's not going down as heavily as it did yesterday. Perhaps it's because I'm being a bit softer and more gentle with my pencil today. So it'll be digital art for a while today, and I can get the line art off and check that that's okay, because I was asked to make just a couple of changes. It's always useful when other people look at what I've done, because they pick out things that I miss completely. And they see things in a different way to how I see them. So it's nice that most the changes I need to make are really quite minor, and I don't need to redraw or redesign. And the other template I drew was also light, so that'll be another one for the book, I think. As it is, so more or less. So that'll be nice. But it can stay in the scanned in sketches for now. So I need a couple of weeks to get some things done before I even think about starting that. It all has to be done by sort of the end of November, or at least the line work does. I usually get a few more weeks, or a couple more weeks after that, to get the coloured plates done. Because once that's a job to be chosen after all the line work is done, and they can. The editorial team like to have a choice, or like to choose. Although with Whimsical Cats, apparently it was a very hard job. I was asked for which ones I really liked, and I said, well, these are the ones that spring to my mind, but I like them all. So I didn't really help them in their choices much. But if they ask me, I just say I just can't choose. And with them having an objective eye, they can see more easily than I can which plates would be more representative of the feel of the book. An opportunity for me to use different colour schemes or different ways of adding colour, which is nice. And I become so overwhelmed with choices, it's ridiculous. Still, it's the point where, sort of like, not that I go into shops very often now, but so, in the days before I had Smol, because I have Smol washing detergent, capsules sent to me every several weeks for my clothes washing, and they come through the door, so I have enough capsules to last for a couple of months in a small box. Comes through the door, and the box is recyclable. The one capsule does a load, 2 if you've got a really dirty or very big load, and they're really super concentrated and fab, and that's right. And no, I'm not paid, sponsored or anything to mention them at all. Not one bit am I. But I don't go shopping now for laundry detergent, or fabric softener. I don't like the small fabric softener though. So I usually get eCover, which I get from Abel and Cole. Mostly. But it depends what fragrances they've got there, because some I really dislike, and it makes me cough. Sets my asthma off. Even though eCover is all natural, it doesn't stop all natural things when they're concentrated from having an effect. So anyway, so I'd perhaps go to a supermarket to do some shopping, knowing that I, for example, had to get fabric detergent, laundry detergents, and I'd always have a look to see what was on offer, or if there was something new available, something different, because I'm like that. And then you get offers where you might have smaller packs of the laundry detergent, which were on offer, but not the bigger ones. And if you stop and think, then the smaller ones, 2 smaller ones, would be equivalent to 1 big one, but because they were on offer, they were cheaper than 1 big one. So trying to work that out, and I don't know what I'd be like now, but I could get so overwhelmed by just that choice that not only would I not get washing detergent, I'd walk out the shop without any of my other shopping, because I just couldn't cope with all that information. I'd become overloaded and overwhelmed by it all. And that still happens. I still get very overwhelmed by things. I can get so easily overwhelmed by noises and the press of people around me. More so now, I'm sure. And I can get overwhelmed by the pressure I put on myself to do things to an extremely high standard, especially for publishers. and then I can get overwhelmed by thinking I'm not good enough, because that is still something, or that I'm an imposter, that what I'm doing isn't really real. And that is something I will struggle with most probably for the whole of my life, because I know what causes it. I'm a lot better than I used to be. Let me quantify that, say that. And it's true, I am a lot better than I used to be. But I just couldn't seem to get to the root of it, or to process it yet in EMDR while I was in therapy. But I also know that I'm a lot better at pushing myself through things and beyond things. Excuse me a moment, I'm going to have a drink of my tea, it's getting cold. Okey-doke, so that's all looking nice. Alright, what next? Which part next? It's trying to work out which parts aren't going to overwhelm me quite so much at the moment. And I think I'm actually going to do some work down here. I actually think I might need a deeper red here as well. So I think red is going to be the way to go here. I really do think so. Let me have a fertle around a moment. I know what colour I'm looking for. Got it straight away. How good's that? This is Shiraz, which is a deeper, much deeper red than the cherry. But it will add that shadow that I want here to these parts, or the darker areas. I'll leave that central bit because I may do that in a different colour. It's under these to give that, to help with that sense of shadow. I know I've got the grey Pit Artist pen there, and hopefully it will show through, although in places I'm not entirely sure that it still does. It's very subtle because the grey isn't a really dark grey, so I may need to go and find a darker grey once all of this is dried and use that to add these shadows again. Right, okay, let's carry on with this cherry red. Actually, I'm going to pop some in there as the Shiraz, because that one will be okay, and this one will be fine for that in there. Just cherry. Now then, do I go for the Sienna Gold, which is the more orange, or shall I go for mustard? Well, I haven't used mustard very much. Mustard is a very peculiar colour because in the pencil it looks sort of like a yucky grey, well, greeny browny colour. When you add water, when water's added to it, it becomes this lovely yellow. Lovely warm yellow, a mustardy yellow, of course. There's this colour up here. It's not dissimilar to the Sienna Gold in many ways, but it's different. It's a different yellow to what I'd get here. So the Sienna Gold is more of an orangey toned yellow. It is lovely. It's one of my favourites. But let's see how these are going to work. I'm just tapping the excess water off my brush on the piece of tissue here, because if I have too much water I just get globs of water, which means the colours will spread. And I am rinsing the tip off because I'm going from quite a light colour to quite a deep one here. So if I go back to the mustard here with a brush that is full of the Shiraz, I'll just end up with one colour. And this is the potch that I don't like about traditional media. I think it's because I just want to get things done. And I know I can't just get things done. But then I also know that this is akin to me moving my arm across the screen to pick up different digital tools or colours as I'm working, so that I find that really potchy and sometimes a pain. I just want to get on and do things. I think that is what I loved about Autodesk Sketchbook, is that you had the little colour pucks and brushes. It was a lot easier to deal with all of the tools that you had, because everything was so much more compact, and it was easy to place it around where you were working within reach of your hand. It's not quite so with Clip Studio Paint, and I do find that a bit on the frustrating side, to be honest. But I still use Autodesk Sketchbook, the free version, because you can't get the paid one anymore. They're not supporting it, and it had a couple of tweaks that allowed you, that meant it was easier to do certain things with it, I suppose. Dropped too much water there. That Shiraz makes all the difference, doesn't it? It really does. Beautiful colour. It really does intensify the red beautifully as well. Now that makes me think I might need to go with Shiraz to some of these areas where I've got the oranges and reds together, and just add that little hint of that depth of colour. Which would be lush, I think. Lush. Still very much used in Wales, even though it's quite old-fashioned in other areas of the country. It was something that, the school I taught at, even though the lush had gone out of fashion, or elsewhere, it's all the craze of the kids constantly. So I do get overwhelmed quite easily, and I think finding this useful is being able to spend just some time in a morning, filming it, and either uploading as a time lapse or with some chatter over the top, so you can, give an insight into what I'm doing, perhaps to inspire you. Now that is really nice. You know what that means? Going to be going back to add Shiraz in places. I know I particularly want to add it because these here have been really vexing me, and because they are a bit on the washed out side, to be honest. But I know that by adding some Shiraz here it will help hugely, and I think I may need to add some more cherry. This is, as I say, this is the beauty of Inktense pencils, is that you can keep layering them and you don't disturb the underlying colours. All you do is add to them. So if I'm going to add colour, I'm going to add colour, I think. I don't think that part of me is ever going to change. Right, I think that's all of them, with some amount. Oh, no, there's a couple here. There's this one. Didn't do a very good job on that one. Definitely need some more cherry in places, because I'm going to have to extend that. But that's okay, I can do that as well. I'd find this hard to do with watercolour, I think. I know you can glaze colours and layer them, but I just have never discovered the knack. Even when I've followed tutorials and taken classes, it just doesn't seem to gel with me. And it may be that I'm hoping I can do things with watercolour that aren't meant to be done with watercolour. And part of me thinks that watercolour washes may be the way for me to go, and then using things like Inktense or other coloured pencils, or on the top of the watercolour to add the intensity and range of colour that I'd like. I don't know. A bit like what I'm doing with the distress ink backgrounds. Okay, I'm going to add water to these. See how it all goes. And I'll leave the other ones untouched for now, so I can compare them and hopefully realise I've done the right thing here. I think I might need a bit more. Yeah, definitely going to need more cherry there. It's okay. A bit too much water on my brush there as well. But again, I'm not going to try to add any more just for now. I'll work with what's there and see how it looks at the end, apart from the ones that are wet anyway. With the ones that are dry, I can do that, adding more. So as I'm adding colour now, I can see the areas that looked pale pink now look white in comparison. I may not have got as much of the Shiraz down as I would like, but we'll see. I think that may make a lot of difference actually, which will be really nice. So I do often get very overwhelmed by lots of things. There's a time when going back and doing this would have completely and totally overwhelmed me, and I would just not have been able to do it. Just need to feather that out a bit. But it's finding the media that seems to work quite well for me. I'm not entirely sure as those are drying off this has made all that much difference, to be honest. I'm hoping it will. But again, it may just mean that I need to return with some more of the colour in this to add more Shiraz. We'll have a look in a moment and see how it appears. Getting hard. No, it's not hard to tell which ones have been blended out with water. And now I've done that, I'll need to work out what I need to do with the middle bits. This is going to take me a lot longer than I thought it's going to in the great scheme of things. But it will be fine. It will work out. I do tend to start off quite cautiously with colour, and then as time goes on I tend to build it up as I build up my confidence with it. I know where I'm going. Okay, just this one to do there, I think. Does that look any different to the others? I think there is some more contrast. Yeah, it's definitely much nicer than it was. So it's been about 35 minutes. I'm getting there for. So I've done I've done some today. I've worked out what I need to do. I've worked out that I'm going to go back to. Sorry, put my glasses down. To these areas with Shiraz and Cherry to intensify that colour. And this one I definitely think I'm going to be going back with Shiraz in places just to darken areas even more. This down here I really love, so I'll want to use that elsewhere. Here seems to be a perfect place for it because it is kind of sun-like, and these here, so that could be quite a nice use of those reds and yellows and oranges, I think. I've decided that I think I've decided that there are areas where I'm going to create some black, possibly. So yeah, I do like these little pearls around here. Over here I could, I don't know. It's a hard one for me to work out. Don't really know what I want to do with them, so I'll leave them as they are. I know this definitely needs to go black, so if it goes black and you see it tomorrow and you think, when did you do that? I'll have done it sometime in the day. I may work on it a bit later, but for now I'm going to say it's done, because I'm going to finish my tea and I'm going to get the template, the line art for the cover of the next book inked in and off, so that then hopefully in the next couple of days I can get all the colouring done. It's going to be an interesting one, but I'm thinking I've got to go whimsical, not realistic. Let's use what colours I feel like. They don't have to be real, and go with that one. And no doubt I'll get some other bits and bobs done today as well. Yesterday I did spend an hour. I found another small square sketchbook that I hadn't done much in, so I started adding distress inks to the pages. So I've started to colour the pages front and back then. I'm thinking, why did I do the back? I don't know. I think I was thinking, oh, it'd be nice to use alcohol markers to add the shadows or to work on these. And of course, if I've added distress ink to the background, to the back, I can't use that because it'll go through, but we'll see. I mean, you know, I don't know what I'm doing half the time or most of the time. So anyway, everything seemed there. Anyway, so I shall stop wittering because I'm beginning to lose the plot here and definitely need more tea. So I'm going to say thank you for joining me. Hope you've enjoyed this little journey this morning, adding more colour to this. Goodness knows when it's going to get done. But take care of yourselves. Enjoy the rest of your day. Look after yourselves until we catch up again. And whatever else you may do in your day, try to find just a little bit of time to be creative, whatever creativity is for you. Until then, take care now. Bye-bye.